Hello, everyone, and welcome to Module 4 of the Life Coaching Certification course. I'm going to go ahead, and as always, I'm going to share my computer screen with you. Give me one moment while I switch over. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen in full view. Okay, so Module 4, we're going to talk about why people employ life coaches, getting to know your client, identifying the client's goals, developing an action plan, which we've talked mostly about during the class, and actually implementing the plan. So we're going to talk about those things. Okay, we're going to employ strategies that will help you get to know your client, be able to develop a better relationship with them, talk about things that can help you conduct an initial session with your client, help them write measurable goals. So we'll talk about SMART goals, how to help them develop an actual action plan, and how they should go about actually implementing the plan. Okay, here's some key terminology. You can actually review this on your leisure time. These things won't actually be on the exam, but these are just some key terminology that's used in the world of coaching. Client, evaluation, milestone, needs assessment. Again, this is just something that you can review on your leisure. Okay, so why do people employ coaches? All right, so move this out of the way. Okay, why do people have life coaches? Okay, why do people have life coaches? Acceptance of or by other concerns. All right, so why people have life coaches? Acceptance of or by others' concerns, personal or professional development, personal and professional growth and development, helping them to identify and clarify any goals that they have set for themselves, setting and implementing those goals once they've established them, helping them to develop an actual solid action plan. So we'll talk about some different steps in the action plan as we move forward. They may employ a coach if they want to make a career change of some sort, improve their career status, reaching a higher level of self-actualization, and reducing stressors in their life. So these are just examples of why people employ coaches. Okay. Some other reasons: to help them build their self-esteem and confidence, help them to become better communicators, increase their level of happiness, creating a balance in their life, establishing personal professional vision statements. You can also have professional coaches, business coaches, assistance with being all that they can be. Okay. Confronting and controlling fears. Now, some of the things that I even talk about as a business coach, we talk about self-sabotage and toleration. So that's just a prime example. Improving your relationships, whether it's personal relationships, family relationships, work relationships. Some of the coaches are, they have a certain focus on that particular niche of coaching. Resolving any financial issues. So you might have a financial coach. Finding purpose in life. Removing clutter from their life, advancing or moving forward in their life. So you may have coaches that kind of help you to deal with different roadblocks and barriers and things that you may be having issues with. Enhancing your spiritual development. So you may have a spiritual coach of some sort. Improving time management skills. That's another reason to employ a coach. Okay. So getting to know your client. So these are some of the steps that you should follow as a coach from the very beginning. So the way the process initially works, when someone finds out about you and they want to hire you as a coach, they typically do what's called a consultation. So you normally have maybe like a 30-minute consultation. I'm a firm believer in time is money, so I don't typically go beyond that. But you could do 30 minutes or less of a consultation. And at that point, that's when you need to start building a rapport with your client. After that's done, you typically provide them with some form of a questionnaire, some form of an agreement that they go ahead and sign, and they would make their initial payment. And then after that, that's when you establish and you set up your first meeting with the client. But at every point, you want to make sure that you provide them with a warm reception. You let them know that they have a safe space and that you're open and you're ready and available to coach them. You, as a part of the process, you review their intake form. So again, there's no specific form that I'm married to. You can create your own form. I also will have sample forms provided to you that you can, use. You can kind of use them as a guide, but you would provide them with some form of an intake form where they can have their, it has their basic information, their demographics, what are some of their goals, some information like that. And you may have some additional questions for them as well. Establish the reason for client wanting coaching. Clarify as needed and offer feedback when working with the client. Establishing time frames for coaching. So typically the way that it works, when a person enters into a coaching agreement with you, it's normally like a 3-month minimum that you start off with. There's normally a 3-month minimum. You can meet with a client possibly bi-weekly, or you can meet with them once a month. Okay. Some coaches operate off an hourly fee. For me personally, I have more programs that are generated on one set price. So, they can still pay in installments, but rather than them paying by the hour, like once they meet with me, they're paying $30, $40, $75 an hour, $200 an hour, whatever. They pay one particular set price for the 3 months. And then again, they could pay it all up front, or I may have an installment plan. So again, my personal preference is to have it where they pay a bulk amount, a certain amount, rather than paying it by the hour. So again, some people start off that way, and then at some point they transition, but it's important for you to outline these things in the coaching agreement, and we'll talk about that. So establish timeframes and timelines, any logistical information as it relates to the time that you're meeting with the client, the actual location of where you're meeting, whether you're going to do virtual discussions or you're going to have an on-site location. You want to make sure that you disclose that information as well. You review the responsibilities, the roles and responsibilities of the coach and the client, because the client also there are certain things that the client must abide by as well. So you want to make sure that you review those things. These things are also outlined in your coaching agreement. Discussing any fees, as I mentioned. If you're doing an hourly rate, most coaches start out as low as $30 an hour, and they would pay you prior to their session. So it would be $30 an hour, or again, you can do a bulk amount. So if they're doing a 45-day coaching program, I'm just using that as an example, it may be $297 or $497 for the entire time, and they would pay that in whole. So that's just an example. Again, a lot of people start out with the hourly rate when they start working in the coaching arena. Okay, so you want to discuss fees, you want to recap, you want to make sure during your first initial session that you've covered everything completely, and then make sure that the client fully understand what's required of them and what your role is as a coach. You want to make sure that you recap, and you want to make sure you confirm everything prior to moving forward. You want to review and sign the coach-client agreement. So again, you may have an actual printed copy of it when you're meeting with the client. You want to make sure that they sign on their end, and you want to make sure that you sign, okay? You can also have coach-client agreements be sent to them electronically. That's something that I have as a part of my back office. I have a system that I use. It's called 17 Hats, and it's something that's being tracked electronically, so they would actually sign online. You have the option to do that as well, or you can have an actual printed copy, but it's important that you obtain the client's signature and you sign the agreement as well. And prior to leaving for that appointment, after they finish up that appointment and you do your complete closing, you want to make sure that you schedule their next appointment. So if they're meeting with you on a bi-weekly basis, say, okay, well, we're going to meet again in 2 weeks. We're going to meet at this location, and we're going to meet during this time. Okay? So these are some steps that just can help you better get to know your client. This is definitely something that you want to have in place for your first initial meeting with them. Okay, so this is a sample of the actual intake form that you can make available to your client. So again, it's basic contact information. Again, their name, their last name, their mailing address, their phone number, the best contact number for them, as well as their email. You may also have some personal information included on that intake form. Okay, so this is just a sample. I will also provide you with another sample within the Moodle environment that you can reference as well. The coaching agreement. So we don't call them contracts. Again, we call them agreements. And this is just, it outlines, again, there's going to be a sample that's in the Moodle environment that you can access. But again, it has specific information regarding the date that you're starting coaching. Any logistic information is included in there. Again, the location, the time frame of coaching, whether it's 3 months, whether it's 45 days, whether it's 60 days, that's outlined in there. The times that you're going to meet is outlined in the actual agreement. The frequency, I mentioned that. Your actual fees, that's outlined in the agreement. The responsibilities of both parties, any information regarding cancellations, that's outlined in there. Just very high level, those are some things that should be included in your agreement. There's no specific outline. You can really cater it to based off of your actual service in your particular niche. But again, I will provide you with a sample and you can model it as needed or you can make any changes. Okay. Okay, so we're moving on. How to identify client goals, okay? So they're the actual client goals are the springboard for your coaching session. So it's very important that you identify these things up front. Again, you can always ask these questions at the beginning of your initial session just to make sure that it's in line and for you to be able to have a better understanding. Okay, and that it mentions that during the first or the second session, goals should be clearly identified, the client's areas of concern. As with all aspects of coaching, your role is to help the client identifying the goals rather than formulating them yourselves. Remember, you want to make sure that you use all the different techniques that we learned as a part of the core competencies. So you want to make sure that you use active listening, use powerful questions, use paraphrasing. You want to make sure that you build a rapport. These are very important things that you need to make sure that you do throughout the coaching process and when you're helping clients to establish goals. Okay, so how to write goals. So many of you probably heard of SMART goals. I'm sure you've taken other classes that focus on SMART goals. So it's an acronym. Okay, so the S stands for specific, the M stands for measurable, the A stands for achievable, the R stands for realistic, and the T stands for time designated. Okay, and we're gonna actually walk through each of these. Okay, so we'll walk through each of these as we move forward to kind of provide you with different examples of SMART goals. So I'll be able to provide you with that as well. Okay, beginning the process. Okay, so this is just an outline of a scenario of your interaction during a coaching session and how you can begin to formulate your questions and leading a client down to creating an actual action plan. Again, this isn't something that you do for the client. It's the responsibility of the client to create their own plan. You're there to support them and guide them and motivate them along the way. So as the coach, you may say something like this. Imagine that we're at the end of our first session. What results would you like to have achieved? Okay, so that's a question that you pose to the client. In return, the client responds, I want to start my own business, so I would have liked to have come up with a way of doing that. Okay, so this is an exchange of conversation between the coach and client. That's the coach's initial question, and then the client responds. So this is just a scenario kind of giving you an idea of how you lead into creating an action plan. Okay, so the coach says, okay, why is starting your own business so important to you? Okay, so again, it's a powerful question. It's open-ended. Okay, client, well, it would fulfill my dreams of being an entrepreneur, and it would give me a sense of being successful and independent. Okay, so that's what the client says. The coach says, great. Moving forward to 1 year from now, you're feeling independent and successful. What are you doing with your career? Okay, the client says, I envision me working as a financial counselor in my own business. Okay, so you see how the coach is actually asking questions, being able to pull further information out of the client based on the client's feedback. So it's very important throughout this process that you practice the active listening approach. You practice the powerful questions approach as well. So you want to make sure that you're present throughout this session so you can ask the right questions. Okay. The coach says, in that case, how would you feel about spending the rest of this session beginning an action plan to guide you through establishing your own business as a financial counselor so that you can feel independent and successful. So again, they're just paraphrasing everything that they've already learned from the client. So this isn't something that they're just pulling out of the air. This is based on their discussion with the client. So they had to make sure that they had their listening ears on, that they were active listening, and they want to make sure that they're asking the right questions and leading down the client down the right path, allowing them to make their own decisions. Okay. So what does the client say? That would be great. So the coach says, let's do it. So at this point, they've gotten to a place where they know the goal at hand. The coach has asked the right question. Now it's time for them to actually create an action plan. Okay. So as a part of the class, one of the things that we're going to do in a group setting, and we're in the process of scheduling our first official meetup for next week, pulling together that. We've gotten a couple times back from you all. So I want to be able to pull something together. So we're going to get into doing some role playing from a coach-client perspective, and being able to get you to a place of creating an actual action plan. So we're going to do that as a part of the class. Okay. So in this scenario, what happened? Okay. The coach helped the client to identify what it is that she wants. Okay, so she helped her to identify. The coach didn't do it for her, but she helped her to identify, help the client to clarify why is it important to him or her. Okay, so understanding, not just actually stating it, but why is it important? How is this going to leave you fulfilled at the end of the day? Help the client to visualize himself or herself achieving that actual goal that they're setting for themselves, okay? All right. And to help the client establish the mindset to create an action plan. So again, it's not something that the coach actually jumped into. The coach just posed the question and allowed the client to respond based on what next steps they thought were best to take. Okay, so that's how that happened. Okay, so we're going to move forward. We're not taking a break. That's actually for the on-site class. So some of the steps of the action plan, and you're going to have an actual action plan within the Moodle environment that you can use as a sample. And again, we're going to do some hands-on activities as we're going to be meeting online. So these are some of the areas of the action plan. You have goals. Okay, so this is where you set at the top of the action plan. You will have an actual goal that the client needs to set. So that would be more so of a SMART goal. So again, it's specific, measurable, attainable, realistic, and time-driven. So an example of that would be, my goal is to lose 30 pounds in 3 months by working out 6 times a week. Okay, 6 times a week may not be realistic to most, but just say 4 or 5. But that's setting an actual SMART goal. Okay, you're being very specific on the amount of weight you want to lose, the time you want to lose, and how frequently you're going to work out. So that would be the actual goal, okay, when you're looking at it from that perspective. What steps are you taking towards the goal, okay? So as a part of your steps, you ask yourself, it could very well be, if we're using that example, it could be your meal preparation. So what steps are you taking to eat better? What steps are you taking to develop a fitness regimen, okay? So these are different things you can outline as a part of your steps. What are some potential barriers? Okay, some potential barriers in doing that could be that you decide not to get a trainer. That could be a hang up, or some potential barriers that you may slack off because you don't have the motivation, or it may be that you're not financially stable to be able to support a lifestyle change for you to eat right. It could be a lot of different things. Okay, so those can be potential barriers. What are solutions? Okay, maybe that you can make the decision to better plan for your weeks, for your meals. You can better plan for them. Another solution would be that you actually hire someone to help you. So those are different things that you can outline for the barriers and the solutions. Who are some of your supporters? Okay, your supporters could be a fitness trainer. It could be a nutritionist. Okay, so those are just some examples of supporters. What additional resources do you need? Okay, is it a gym? Is it an accountability partner? What resources will you need in order for you to achieve that goal? Okay, what are some of your strengths? Okay, you may say some of your strengths are being organized. Okay, so that may help with your meal preparation because you're an organized individual. That may be something that helps with your your meal preparation. Okay, you may say one of your challenges is actually exercising. Okay, well, if that's a challenge, then you may definitely want to seek out to get support from a trainer. Okay, so this is just, I'm just providing an example of what what could be included in an action plan. Okay, how progress will be measured. Okay, you can definitely say progress can be measured on a biweekly basis or a monthly basis where you actually weigh yourself. Okay, that's how we're going to measure progress, to make sure that we're doing better. You know, how has your energy improved? Have you, have you taken certain measurements? So that's just an example of how you can measure progress. What's the actual initiation date? Okay, so what's the date that it starts? Okay, progress review. How frequently are you going to review progress? And what's the actual mastery date? So as we established at the very beginning that she wanted to lose the weight in 3 months. So, or did I say 30 days? I'm not really sure. Doesn't matter. But whatever that actual date was that was established within the goal, that's what the mastery date would be. Okay. So the most important thing working with a coach is to also, again, not only to support you and to motivate you, but if you're working with, for example, a fitness coach, they're making sure that your goals are realistic and they're attainable. So that's one thing that they're also doing as you're working with them, which is very, very important. Okay. So implementing the plan. So one thing it is to say, okay, I'm going to set a goal for myself. And I always say this specifically when doing things like vision boards. Okay, you have people that create these beautiful vision boards. They have all these wonderful pictures. They have all of these quotes. They have all of these different things cut out. But what action are you taking towards accomplishing those goals? What are you doing? So it's important for you to actually implement and to move forward with accomplishing those goals. It's all in the action. It's all in the forward movement. So that's one of the things that's important as you go through this process. So during the implementation phase, the coach should do this. Always make sure that the client is focused, okay? So make sure that they're focused on the goal is at hand. They're not all over the place. They're focusing on that goal. They're staying with that particular goal. Acknowledge progress when they're made. So again, give them a pat on the back. Allow them the opportunity to celebrate all of their successes, whether it's big or small. I always use this with my client, never despise small beginnings. So you should always celebrate your success at any point, whether it's big or small. Never despise small beginnings. So if we're using the same example from the fitness coach perspective, from losing weight, if you lose a couple of inches or you lose 1 pound, celebrate that, because that just means that you're making steps in the right direction. Okay. Hold client accountable for lack of effort when appropriate. So if a client comes in and they haven't recorded anything in their journal, or they haven't done anything as far as meal preparation, based on any of the assignments that they're doing, make sure that you hold them accountable. In a way, you're calling them out. Okay, and asking them what's keeping them from actually being able to move forward. Okay, which brings me to the next one. Help the client to identify and remove any roadblocks. So say, okay, what's the issue at hand and how do we go about coming up with solutions to fix this problem? How do we do that? Okay. Help the client determine if goal needs to be revised or totally rewritten. So I always use this as a primary example. When I'm teaching the course. So say, for example, a person comes and they say, okay, well, I want to purchase a house. Okay, that's their initial goal. I would like to purchase a home for $192 within the next 6 to 12 months. I just made that up. Okay, I would like to purchase a home. So when we start going through the steps of what it takes to purchase a home, first and foremost, your credit is important, okay? Then you have to go through an application process, obviously checking in with your bank and doing all these different things, hiring a realtor, getting the necessary approval, and all of those different things. So those are just some high-level steps, okay? But one thing you may find out as a part of the process, say one of the most important things is their credit. Say their credit is not where it should be. Okay, their credit is not where they should be. They came back, they pulled their credit, they noticed that they have a low credit rating, and it doesn't meet the requirements for being able to move forward with certain programs. Okay, so what happens at this point? The goal is revised. So someone comes to you for their initial goal is to purchase a house, but then the goal is revised because now it's no longer about the house, it's about their credit. So we have to table the goal of purchasing a house and we have to actually work towards the goal of improving your credit. Okay, so you see in this case how a client can be with you for an extended period of time because now the goal has changed. So now that we're at a place where we've improved your credit, once we finish doing that, then we can move on with working towards the purchase of your home. But you can see an example of how an action plan can be revised. That's just a primary example. Okay, and throughout the process, you continue to help the client look within for solutions. So again, you're not doing the work for them. You're not doing the work for them at all. You're helping them to come up with solutions. You're helping them to come up with solutions. You're not doing the work for them. You're cheering them on along the way. Okay? All right. So that's actually the review, the presentation for this week. Again, we're going to meet next week. I want to get some face-to-face time. We did not cover SHAPE today because I just want to make sure that everybody's caught up. I want the face-to-face time, so we're going to go ahead with moving forward on potentially a Tuesday of next week where we're going to spend at least 2 hours together. Again, I want to make it, I want to be able to at least do this maybe twice a month, if at all possible, making sure that we get that opportunity for you to get the face-to-face to do some interactive activities as well. Okay, so we want to make sure that we do that. As far as for the next class, you can go ahead and continue forward with your reading assignment. We're not going to have any journaling, and we're not going to have any other assignments at this point. I just want to make sure that everybody's caught up with the assignments, the actual assignments that we've already had in the discussion post. So you will have your discussion post out there, but again, we are going to have some face-to-face time next week. I am in the process of following up with everyone. I did get some of your emails regarding the times that you're available, so we're going to try to work this out the best way that we can to make sure that we can accommodate everyone with the time schedule, because I know it's kind of tight for some. So we're going to definitely try to work it out for everyone. So at most, focus on your reading for SHAPE. You don't have to worry about any actual other assignments other than the discussion posts that I will have posted out there. So at this point, we have chapters 1, module 1, 2, and 3, and now we have module 4. So at this point, prior to, if we can get up to module 3 done, then you will be completely caught up at this point. Module 4, we can lead into that next week, but I want to make sure that everyone has up to module 3 covered before we move forward. So again, we'll be meeting next week. I will be following up with everyone to make sure that the day and time works. Again, I'm going to try to accommodate everyone the best way that I can. If for whatever reason that you cannot join the session, I will try to do something with you individually. If not, the session will be recorded as well, so you can always go back and listen to the session, okay? The session that we have with everyone. All right, so that's pretty much it. Next week we will go into, we will be following up on the client as well. We'll get into some discussions about that. We're gonna try to go into some discussions around SHAPE. So we'll be able to cover a lot of things in our face-to-face time, and I'll be available to answer any questions that you might have. In the meantime, if you have any questions, you know that you can reach out to me. Again, my number is 813-703-2877. You can also drop any questions within the Moodle up under this particular post in reference to today's assignment or any other questions that you might have. We'll make sure that we get everyone caught up. I know there's a number of questions about some different things, but we will be able to have some face-to-face time, which I know most of you want next week. So we'll be working towards that as well. All right, so if that is all, you all have a wonderful, enjoy the rest of your week, and I will see you next week. Thank you so much.